Tonight on Business Live, government to soon pass space policy, which will propel Ghana among a league of countries pursuing space, science and technology for development. We'll hear from the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
Sea, as it is popularly called, has caused most of the water bodies in localities where it is practiced to become polluted. We want to strengthen our use of space technologies to safeguard and monitor those water resources.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the Council of University of Energy and Natural Resources is urging government to address illegal mining holistically. Also, stakeholders in the banking sector fear the higher inflation rate could negatively impact interest rates, affecting the loan books of lenders.
Would increase what we are seeing both on non-food inflation and food inflation going up. The regulator would have to consider all these variables and maybe adjust the MPC in the next meeting. So we believe that they will definitely edge up.
And the Ghana National Tomato Traders warn of a shortage of the vegetable will continue till the end of May.
We start getting tomato from the farm gates like Akomadine, Tiobodom, and then
we have all these stories and more coming up shortly. Do stay with us. Tonight, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has hinted that the government will soon pass the Ghana space policy, which will propel the country among the league of countries pursuing space, science and technology for development. According to him, this will aid the economic development of the country. He was speaking at the 5th United Nations Ghana International Conference on the use of space technology for water resource management, organized by the University of Energy and Natural Resources. Here's a report.
Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia said the country's digitalization agenda has witnessed tremendous achievements since its inception. The government has so far introduced digital address systems, Ghana Card, mobile money interoperability, e-justice and paperless POS systems. Dr. Bawumia added that the country must take the path to introduce research technologies, amongst others, to fast-track development.
Illegal small-scale mining, or galamsey, as it is popularly called, has caused most of the water bodies in localities where it is practiced to become polluted, and as such progressively costly or again extremely difficult to treat for utilization. We want to strengthen our use of space technologies to safeguard and monitor those water resources and ensure their worth and quality are protected now and for future generations. Google Maps and other resources have helped to provide many opportunities in some cities in Ghana. Online taxi administrations have opened up as of late, decreasing the spate of joblessness. Delivery services to places hitherto difficult to locate or access have become commonplace through these space-supporting apps.
Dr. Bawumia urged participants to dig deep and find innovations that will onboard space technology to prevailing technologies.
Can all attest to prevailing technologies and services to us from the development and onward onboarding of space technologies. There are a lot of other opportunities available, and it is my sincere hope that we can all, by the end of this conference, deliver so much more on the options available to us as a nation and as united nations.
Meanwhile, chairman of the Council of University of Energy and Natural Resources, Professor Kwesi Nsia Jaba, in an interview with Joy Business, urged government to take drastic measures in addressing illegal mining in the country.
All of us, and we are asking government to take practical steps to address the challenges posed by water pollution, particularly through illegal mining activities in the country. The government in the past has assured us that he will put his presidency online. The president has said that he will put his presidency online, and if it means taking drastic measures to stop illegal mining, and that will cost his presidency, he is prepared to do that. And we are expecting that under the current system where water is being polluted, our land systems are all being destroyed, we expect the government to take decisive action, drastic action, to address these challenges.
The conference brought together the academia, government officials, technologists, amongst others.
Tonight, financial analyst and chief finance officer of the Valley University, Dr. William Sepra, is projecting inflation could hit 40% by August this year if the current trend continues and policymakers fail to act decisively. He therefore wants the Bank of Ghana to increase its policy rate and reserve requirement for banks to reduce lending, whilst the government also cuts its expenditure to slow growth. Dr. Sepra told Joy Business the rising inflation could worsen the cost of living of Ghanaians.
Inflation simply means as a country we are spending more than we produce our goods and services. So government may have to also look at a way to reduce the spending activity in the country. First, government may have to check its own spending. When government does that, the impact is that government will have to revise its growth rates that they have set for 2022. So the 5 point something sets, I'm sure if government wants to stop the inflation, they must revise it lower, and government must reduce its expenditure. Central bank, as has already been mentioned, must be thinking of bringing what we call the contrasting monetary policy. That is, one, increase monetary policy rate so that it will control inflation, and two, also increase the reserve requirement for banks. In that case, banks will be limited by giving more money or putting more money in the economy. In effect, we have to intentionally, as a country, slow down the growth to be able to curtail what we are seeing now. If not, if it goes like this, it's going to go around the 1998, 1999, 2000 period where inflation was around 40%. And if we don't take care, by August, we'll be hitting around 40% inflation. So government must have an intention to make sure that it slows down growth.
In a related development, Dr. Papa said government should introduce a full pricing control mechanism as well as cut down expenditure to manage the situation. It appears that government cannot do much to stop these skyrocketing numbers, but is it feasible if government interferes in full price adjustment as an alternative to manage the rising inflation rate? We're joined via Zoom by petroleum strategist Dr. Yusuf Sulemana with some answers. We're grateful, Doctor, you could join us. What do you make of the call on government to, implement a full pricing control mechanism to control inflation?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon to you, Charles, and to your charities viewers in Ghana and across the globe. In times like this, I think it requires desperate measures. Desperate developments require desperate measures, but they have to be strategic. And so, with the thought of introducing a kind of control mechanism into the fuel pricing regime, it's not out of place. It's just that we have to tackle it strategically. Why I'm saying that is that we should not do anything that will destabilize the policy of deregulation. However, we should also leave deregulation at the point in time where deregulation is becoming powerless in terms of bringing control into the system. So what I think is we could think about looking at a kind of subsidies that will come like on temporary basis. Let's say the government can tell that, okay, deregulation is working. This deregulation hasn't gone to sleep, but I want to regulate some portions of the market that will bring about, some pushing into the poor consumer. I think if that is done, that is the way to go. Because at the end of the day, if the poor consumer is if the poor consumer is cushioned, consumer spending will be stimulated, and I think it will translate to higher economic growth. But that's a double-edged sword because deregulation has helped the nation at the downstream side. Look at what happened prior to deregulation. We used to have fuel shortages. So if there's any single thing that has happened to the market, especially the downstream, that has helped the downstream to balloon to control about 6 to 7% of the GDP, it's deregulation. We can't take that away from deregulation. But I keep saying that we don't leave a policy down that requires adjustment and leave it that the market should be. I mean, the market should control itself. Some certain times you don't leave market forces to control itself. You can come in, make some few adjustments temporarily, and see how the market will respond. Especially when those adjustments will lead to a stimulation of economic growth. I think that should be the way to go. But I don't support the idea we interfering 100% to put deregulation to sleep. No, we cannot do that. But we can do a kind of partial and strategic interference in a way by the government of the day, where a poor consumer should be the main focus to be pushing. And the reason why it's very good to cushion consumer at this stage is because of the inflationary pressures. If a consumer pays a lot at the pump, it translates to high inflation because goods and services will definitely go high. And when goods and services go high, that fits into the inflation figures. And so it's not a surprising thing that we are seeing the inflation as we see it today. It's because goods and services are very expensive.
Indeed.
And because the cost of energy is very expensive, yeah.
Indeed, but of course, Ghana is an oil-producing country, and we have seen the fluctuation in oil prices on a global scale. From your perspective, do you think that we have dealt with the windfall strategically enough to, cushion consumers?
No, this is a very good one, Charles. I think we could do better. I have called time with that number that Ghana as a nation, we have lost a lot of opportunities. We've lost beautiful opportunities that could have, that beautiful strategy that we could have implemented to cushion the consumer at times like this. And why am I saying that? If you're an oil producer and then you produce oil, then you export all the oil, and then you end up importing the derivative, let's say the finished product of the oil, the byproduct of the oil, you will not have strategic advantage at all. You will not have that. And that's how come, if you observe our part of the world, whenever oil prices are taking the bullish turn, we complain. When oil prices are taking the bearish turn, we complain because we haven't had a strategy. What is the strategy here? We have to be able to link up the upstream and downstream seamlessly, because at the point in time, there will only be windfalls. When we have bullish momentum as we have it now, when oil prices are skyrocketing, we shouldn't be complaining too much if you're a producer. But if you don't strategize, you complain like we are doing. If oil prices are dropping drastically, we shouldn't be complaining too much if you strategize. So what is the way forward? I have called that the government of the day, or whatever, whoever controls the economy as we speak now, should make concerted effort to link up the upstream and downstream together. And when you do that and there are windfalls, you can easily pass the windfall from upstream to downstream. And if you quite remember, we've done that in the other way around. There was a time when oil prices collapsed, 2016 thereabout, 2015, 2016 thereabout. We introduced what we call SPD, that is Special Petroleum Tax. And what it was meant to do was just pushing us from the potential revenue that we're going to lose from the upstream side, because oil prices will collapse. This is the direct invest. Why don't we do that? All right, but we need to have a formula in place. Okay, if the formula in place and it is strategic, when the windfalls are coming, the formula will kick in, to cushion the poor consumer.
As always, we're grateful for your analysis on this development. Dr. Ayitey Sulemana is a petroleum strategist. Well, some stakeholders in the banking sector say the high inflation rate could negatively impact interest rates, affecting the loan books of lenders. Data released by the Ghana Statistical Service this week shows that inflation rate increased to 23.6%, the highest in 8 years. Some financial observers have called on the Bank of Ghana to respond by upping the policy rate to stabilize prices. Reacting to a question on how recent development will impact Cal Bank at the Ghana Stock Exchange's facts behind the figures, Group Head of Treasury Philip Dodufin said the bank is observing the macroeconomic trends to avoid bad loans.
Considering the rate at which inflation is moving and also interest rate is moving, you cannot exactly indicate as to when the breaks will be. However, what we are seeing on the market is that it's having a direct impact on the bond market. It's also having a direct impact on the FX side also. However, what we are seeing is a lot of bond holders are now being careful to trade on a short end or to purchase on a short end, not to go too much into the long term or medium term because of the rate at which we are moving. And that's also having a direct impact on JR. And people are also monitoring these two variables. Once the interest rates are moving, customers are prepared to go on a short end to take advantage of the repricing that we are seeing. However, we have to monitor what the regulator will be doing as a central bank in terms of next MPC, what will be the next policy rate direction, and that will also direct what the market will be doing. So these are the few things we'll be monitoring, and we believe that the market is still fluid and it's not stable at the moment.
And where do you believe policy rates go to?
Definitely, they would increase. What we are seeing both on non-food inflation and food inflation going up, the regulator would definitely have to consider all these variables and maybe adjust the MPC the next meeting. So we believe that they will definitely edge up, and that will also influence the interbank market, that will also influence the bond market, and also that will affect the total interest rate markets going forward.
Meanwhile, partner at accounting and auditing firm Deloitte Ghana Ayitey is urging the Bank of Ghana to further adjust the policy rate to reduce inflation to an appreciable level.
Statement that was released with the new inflation figures attributed the cause of the inflation to two main factors, which obviously food inflation and non-food inflation. So in the last 4 months of the year, inflation has averaged over 18.2%. And a significant component of it has been non-food inflation. And the non-food inflation has been caused by some of the indirects that were introduced in 2021 budget. Going forward, we've seen that the effect of the global pandemic, global conflict, and then the cost of oil, rising cost of fertilizer is affecting food prices. And so food inflation is now a key factor and a key driver of the inflation rate that we are seeing. The problem is, interest rates will only be attractive, or interest rate will go high to attract savings so as to avoid a lot of cash chasing money. The issue is if the cost of food and the cost of non-food items are increasing higher than the return that people get on their investment, people are not going to invest. People are going to liquidate their investment and use to buy goods and services, because the returns on investment is not enough to compensate for any savings that are made. So I think that for now, if you are going to adjust interest rates, the interest rate adjustment should consider any adjustment that will mitigate the impact of the depreciating local currency. So if we stabilize the local currency, we can manage the inflation. Because according to the finance minister, and obviously if you look at the inflation results, significant component of the inflation as we have now is imported. The way you manage that is to mitigate the impact or the effect of depreciating local currency. If the local currency is depreciating, and as a result of imported inflation, then you have to manage exchange rates. So we would rather want a policy that helps to mitigate the impact of imported inflation. And the policy should be directed at stabilizing the local currency. And so I guess if you would have to adjust the rate, the policy rates, what extent we are adjusting should be something that will help us mitigate the impact of the imported inflation.
Government statistician Professor Samuel Ayitey has justified this year's April inflation rate, rejecting suggestions it has been understated. They're concerned that the 23.6% rate for last month does not reflect current development on the market. Well, some observers have said that the figures should have been higher than what has been put out. But speaking on PM Express, the business edition, Professor Samuel Ayitey insisted that data reflects development on the ground.
From my point of view, it's not really about whether it should have gone lower than the 19.4 or higher than 19.4. I think the reality on the ground, what you hear people saying is that prices of commodities keep changing. I think what we're not too sure about was the extent to which the price would change between March 2022 and April 2022. And George, this is one of the reasons why we are emphasizing understanding the immediate effect and the pass-through effect. Yesterday, we put a fourth item out of the 13 divisions that recorded a higher than national rate of inflation, which was household equipment and maintenance. I had earlier on also indicated that bus and trotro fares with a weight of 5.8 recorded an inflation rate of 29.7. George, if you take these two items moving forward, there is potential pass-through effect. And what that simply means is that if house owners are incurring higher costs in terms of household equipment and maintenance, the tendency of passing on this through rent, which is also one of the 307 items, is very high.
Well, moving on to agric-related matters, of course, after this short break, Ghana National Tomato Traders warning of shortage of the vegetable, saying that it will continue till the end of May. We have details after this break.
We start getting tomato from the farm gates like Akomadine, Tiobodom, and then Eastern region, Begro, by next month.
Now, the Ghana National Tomato Traders and Transporters Association says the shortage of tomatoes in Ghana will continue till the end of May. The chairman, Eric Osei-Tufor, says its members are getting less than 5 truckloads a day instead of more than 50 it normally imports during the lean season. Next on Food Chain, Prince Appiah speaks to relevant stakeholders on why Ghana's over-dependence on Burkina Faso for tomato has resulted in these shortages. Here's a bit of what to expect.
Wow. Because we are buying from Burkina Faso and Niger 140,000 CFA to 150,000 CFA. So when you change to Ghanaian cedi, it goes about 2,100 per box. Wow. And look at the minor expenses, including transportation. So tomato will shoot to about 3,000 per box.
Which ordinarily would have cost how much?
Oh, when we started from January up to middle of April, the maximum price was 1,002.
1,002
per box.
And it's now pegged somewhere 3,000.
3,000, 2,008.
Wow. So at this point that most of your members, the transporters and traders, are afraid, obviously for the right reasons. They must be afraid of their lives going to Burkina and Niger to bring tomatoes. What is going to be the situation? What are we going to do now?
Oh, you will still experience shortage because our local tomato, there is none at the moment. Yeah, we start getting tomato from the farm gates like Akomadine, Tiobodom, and then Eastern region, Begro, by next month. So from now up to ending of May, there will be still shortage of tomato within the country.
You want to catch the full episode of Food Chain on Saturday at 6 p.m. with Prince Apia. Well, that's how we end this edition of Business Live. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. I'm Charles Ayitey. Many thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of our program.